Cinderedge is a solo journaling RPG that puts you in the role of a firefighter who is trying to contain an impossible-to-contain forest fire. It was created by Grant Milkey of Quasi Real Publishing and is crowdfunding at the time of this recording. I'll leave a link below. So actually, there are some important caveats to that premise. You're a firefighter, but not in any conventional sense. The setting is a high fantasy world called Ansera, which is apparently detailed on a website and not in the book. The details don't really matter much besides the fact that it's high fantasy, and that matters because the way you're fighting this fire is with a little magical stone called a ward. In fact, you're a ward keeper, pouring your psychic energy into this stone, which in turn holds back the fire. In this video, I want to go over the premise of the game, how this game works, my experience playing through the game, and finally my wish list for this game's final form. Let's just jump in. Okay, so we've established that the game is a solo journaling RPG. You play as a ward keeper, a firefighter who pours their psionic energies into a magic stone that holds a portion of a raging fire at bay. There are a few more things. When you signed up for this impossible quest, the powers that be wiped a good portion of your memories, and over the course of play, you recover individual memories here and there. And it's up to you to describe and elaborate on what those memories entail. Oh, and one more important thing about the premise. You're completely and utterly doomed. There's no way to beat the fire. There's no way to really win in any way. The idea here is to try to piece together fragments of your memory and resolve personal issues before succumbing to the inevitable. And on that note, let's jump into the mechanics. Your character is comprised of 3 stats: HP, Mind, and Ward. You also keep track of inventory, which comes and goes based on the prompts. For each round of play, you will draw a card from a deck of 52 plus jokers. That round represents a week of in-game time, and you're meant to resolve whatever is listed on the page for that card. At the top of each round, you will also lose 1 HP and 1 ward point. The prompts vary wildly in what they will have you do, but more often than not, you are gaining and losing a random amount of points in one of your 3 stats or an inventory. Memories are also gained with a lot of prompts, and it's in this fashion that your character is piecing together their past. You also have 3 options outside of the prompts each round. You can sacrifice an inventory item, if you have one, to recover 1d6 HP. You can sacrifice 1 memory to recover 1d6 mind, and you can sacrifice 1d6 HP or mind to pick up that much in ward points. Your ward points represent the health of that magical stone that keeps the fire at bay. A couple more things. Anytime you draw a heart from the deck, you will add a location to a map. And anytime you draw a diamond, you will draw a rune on your ward. These are mostly just for aesthetics as far as I can tell. You're also encouraged to sketch all of your inventory items and really anything and everything from the prompts. The idea here is to end up with a cool sort of heartfelt maudlin little journal. Eventually, one of your 3 stats will be whittled to 0. When that happens, the first chapter ends and you will read the prompt for the next chapter, which introduces voices inside your head. All 3 of your stats reset to 12. They can never go above 12, by the way. Then you keep drawing cards and completing the prompts until one of your stats reaches 0 again, at which point you will read the prompt for chapter 3. Pressing on, you draw cards and follow prompts until one of your stats reaches 0 one last time. This is the end of the line for your character. You can come up with your own ending or take a cue from the book, which will give you one of 8 different prompts depending on which of your stats reached 0 in the course of the 3 chapters. They're all pretty downer prompts, by the way, but that comes with the territory. By the way, if you don't have any cards or dice on hand when playing this game, you can actually just use the book itself to randomly generate a number between 1 and 6, as well as a card. You just close your eyes and point to a random place on the page. I thought that was pretty clever. So I actually played a whole run through of this game to see how it felt. One thing I have to say about solo games is that it sidesteps one of tabletop RPG's greatest challenges, and that is scheduling. Instead of wrangling everyone's busy schedule and going back and forth and dealing with cancellations, etc., you just sit down and start playing whenever you want. Anyway, here are my biggest takeaways from my one playthrough of Cinderedge. It's best to take it slow. It's really all about the journey here because we already know how it's going to end, more or less. The rules are more straightforward than Thousand-Year-Old Vampire. The author of this game gives credit where credit is due to Tim Hutchings and Thousand-Year-Old Vampire, and you can see the same design blueprint from that game here in Cinderedge, but this game is way more straightforward in terms of the mechanics, and in a way it's more enjoyable as a result. I found myself able to just focus on the journal entries a bit more and worry less about the fiddly rules and rules ambiguities from the vampire game. There's no readily findable native setting. I went to the Mythcraft RPG website where there was supposed to be a predefined setting and details for this world of Ansera, but I ended up just finding more of a sandbox there, which is fine. I was definitely able to make up most of the world details myself. Card evolution keeps replays fresh. Drawing the same card multiple times doesn't feel repetitive because the prompts change based on the previous encounters. There are actually 3 progressive entries for each card. Pacing varies between chapters. Chapter 1 can feel slow as you establish your character. Chapter 2's voice mechanics adds a bit of chaos. And Chapter 3 becomes genuinely tense as resources dwindle. Drawing and sketching matters more than expected. The visual elements, maps, ward runes, inventory sketches, become anchors for memory. When you mark off items, you're erasing, scratching out, or otherwise eliminating your own artwork. Okay, here's what would be great to see in the final product. A short primer for an optional high fantasy setting that people could latch onto. Right now, the game points you to the Mythcraft website for world details, but what you find there is more of a sandbox than concrete lore, as far as I could tell. A few pages of atmospheric setting details, what these burning forests were like before the fire, who these ward keepers might actually be, and what might have actually caused this apocalyptic blaze might help players ground their stories right out of the gate. Less artwork on the journal book so that players can fill that space in themselves with their own art and writing. The journal/rulebook is very nice, and I did enjoy the art, but part of the magic of solo journaling games comes from making the physical book your own through sketches, doodles, and personal touches. More blank space would invite that kind of creative ownership. A little more hope. Look, I get it. This is a game about inevitable failure and slow decline. That's the point, and it works. But even the darkest stories benefit from moments of light. Maybe some possibility of more positive outcomes would be nice. Cinderedge knows exactly what it wants to be. A melancholy meditation on memory and inevitable failure. The mechanics are clean, the memory system creates genuine emotional stakes, and it respects your time with a complete story in one sitting. But it's not escapist fun. It's designed to put you through an emotional ringer. If you want heroic adventure, you'll have to look elsewhere. If you want to explore themes of loss and identity, then this does deliver. So check it out if you're curious about solo games and you're in the right headspace for something heavy. Just know that your ward keeper won't get a happy ending. Links are below. Let me know your thoughts on this game, and thanks for watching. I'll see ya.